Welcome back. Today is July 17th, 2026. Uh, Donald J. Trump just gave a press release where he litigates the same conspiracy theories he's always had since 2020 and even 2016, even though he won in 2016 and in 2024. Um, he goes on multiple tirades about random things that aren't relevant, as in inflation, the border, and our relation with other countries. These things aren't relevant to what was said as much as they were lies. We won't address that right now. We want to focus on his election denial claims that have been proven false. But the first thing I'm going to address is just this quick thing of what he's. I'll just let it play itself.
Um, Sean, you also heard the president make claims that electronic voting machines are vulnerable and easily compromised. Fox News has not seen that evidence yet, is not in a position to evaluate the accuracy of the president's statements and claims at this time.
Brandon, do you know why Fox News is not willing to say anything about those claims? I
Ah,
know.
well, I think. Oh, well, I think it's because they lost a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
And if you want to remind me, was it? I believe it was the biggest lawsuit that was ever settled in American history, correct?
Yep, biggest lawsuit ever. It was over the Dominion voting systems lawsuit with Fox News, and it came in at about a $787 million settlement.
And correct me, a settlement. So they didn't even want to get. That means they didn't even get to court, right? They wanted to pay out before they even got to court, correct?
They wanted to pay out because they know they were going to lose that case.
They knew they were going to lose, but also the statements that were revealed in the first stage of what is it, like findings or whatever, was so damning that they decided to settle instead of going forward.
Yeah, it's spectacular. Yeah, they couldn't even make it past what would be this? It would be discovery, right?
Yeah, they can't even say they won't even say anything on air because they know if they were, they would go against their settlement agreement probably, and also that means that they could get resued over this matter.
Yep, exactly.
I think we did a good job in the last episode showcasing all the lies that were probably going to be said, and not like we were right about most of them. The Georgia phone call, the Ukrainian phone call with Rudy Giuliani and Zelensky, facts about the election being rigged, just being proven false. I think we did a good case. I think we did a good job showcasing that in the last episode. But at the same time, we were a little bit wrong about him using Maduro, which I'll admit. Like, I gave them too much credit. I thought they were smarter and more evil than. No, they're more, not more evil, but I thought they were smarter. Like, they would try to do something more bold. And this is just kind of like a baby crying on stage about the same thing again for the last 6 years.
Yeah, we'll get more into how evil they are later, especially later on, Trump comparing the U.S. to a third world country or worse than a third world country when it comes to elections. But I think you're spot on. It's not that they are not evil enough. It's because that they're not smart enough.
And just showcasing how stupid they actually are. Here's Hunter Biden addressing what was said last night. If you want to go ahead and read that, Brendan.
Sure. Putin. Last night, Donald Trump released a declassified document that says his own intelligence community identified Putin as personally running an operation to defeat my father in 2020, built around a fake Burisma corruption scandal centered around me and executed through prominent Americans. Trump tasked his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to fly to Kiev and meet a known Russian agent. The Americans who ran, laundered, and legitimized the operation: Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Solomon, Joe Genova, Victoria Toensing, Lev Parnas, Igor Fruman, Janelle Rohn, Sean Hannity, Steve Bannon, Miranda Devine, Ken Vogel, Ron Johnson, Chuck Grassley, James Comer, and Jim Jordan. To name a few, an operation formally sanctioned by Trump's own Treasury Department on September 10th, 2020, and expanded to include more named actors on January 11th, 2021. Oh, and don't forget the Russian-linked FBI informant Alexander Smirnov, who later pleaded guilty to making the entire Burisma bribery story up. The record exists, and we have all the receipts and more.
And he links to a part of the files that Trump and the FBI released to try to claim election fraud, but they proved the opposite. Here's two experts I'm going to read. President Putin and senior Russian officials are overseeing efforts by proxies to spread claims about former Vice President Biden, as well as Ukrainian politicians and alleged Ukrainian influence in the 2016 U.S. election. This other part here. These figures are conspiring to intensify their efforts as the election approaches to orchestrate a high-profile corruption scandal implicating former Vice President Biden and the Democratic Party. At the peak of 2020 U.S. presidential campaigns, their aim is to defeat the former vice president and ensure the president's victory. This administration is so stupid and so corrupt and willing to lie to your face that they are releasing these files contradict what they are saying. This reads like they were trying to, like Russia was trying to help Trump.
Yeah, and it backs up what the Democrats were saying about the election. Yeah, no, it's contradictory to the current admin's position.
It's just it doesn't require any level of serious analysis because again, one, they have been screaming about this and crying about it for the last 6 years, probably even longer since they've been complaining about Obama and the 2016 election. Keep in mind that Mueller report, the only thing was that they couldn't implicate Trump. And that was the only thing that they had. But there were so many indictments in the Mueller report. That is why Bannon got like ousted. I don't know how you take this administration seriously. Like I haven't, but at the same time, like I don't know how you can take this administration seriously at all when they're doing stuff like this. And then we have Russian paid actor Tim Pool. Holy shit. Trump says Intel shows China paid U.S. journalists to write negative stories about the Trump administration. I'm going to toot my own horn here. I tweet back at him. Sources close to me tell me that information is credible. Please, God, let it be true. Which is just, I think is a banker.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Tim Pool talking about getting the wheels greased by a foreign power is just very hypocritical.
And I just want to include this as well. Ben Shapiro. It has now become absolutely commonplace on all sides to say the system is rigged without proper evidence of said rigging. The seductiveness of that perverse worldview is obvious. It allows you to lie, rob, and cheat without remorse and with a sense of malicious justification. Destiny here on all sides. This is what having zero integrity looks like, which is true. Brandon, do you remember in 2016 how long it took Hillary to concede the election?
Wasn't like literally the day after?
It was literally the day after.
Yeah.
Do you remember how long it took Trump to concede the election?
Oh, well, he still hasn't.
Yeah, he still hasn't.
That's
he claims
that's what tonight, Thursday was about.
Yeah. And in 2024, how long did it take Harris to concede the election?
I believe she conceded that day, didn't she?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck Ben Shapiro is on by saying on all sides. It makes no fucking sense. And again, it's just what having zero integrity looks like. And it's what the sane washing that I'm not going to say normal conservatives because they're all fucking crazy, but it's just sane washing of one side and trying to drag the other side down to your level, which is just absurd because it just doesn't happen on the left, on the liberal side.
Yep. I have a little bit of this analogy might not work because I'm thinking about it on the fly, but I'll put it out there. Maybe people will agree or disagree with it. And maybe you'll, agree or disagree with it, right? Imagine you're at the shooting range and there's one target. Okay. And both of you, there's two people firing at the same target, which is odd because that usually wouldn't happen at the same time. But imagine there's two of you, you both have AR-15s, and you're shooting, right? And someone is just lighting up the target. All sides of it, they're not centered. They don't have good grouping. It's just all over the place. There's one person who's just getting perfect groupings. Okay. And let's say there's an observer that comes, maybe it's the range master, whatever, comes over and looks at, people shooting the aftermath of both people shooting at the target. And he notices, wow, your guys' grouping is really bad. Your guys' grouping is terrible. Like it's all over the place. Yeah, there's some shots that are, grouped pretty well, but for the most part, you're just all over the place on this target. And one guy's like, well, that's not me. That was the other guy. And both of them, there's one guy who they're both adamantly denying that they're the person with the messy shots, but someone is taking poor shots clearly, right? Now imagine if the range master had a camera on both people, and they could see trigger pull to when the bolt hits a target, who is getting good groupings and who isn't. And then you can see, oh, okay, well, that was actually the guy, maybe on the right-hand side that had better groupings than the guy on the left-hand side. He knows who has better groupings because he has evidence. He's actually investigated, right? Them shooting at the targets. Same thing with if you have a friend or a parent or whoever in your life who says, oh, well, on both, or like Ben Shapiro, like, oh, on both sides, things are the equal or they're the same. Well, usually people that say this are either A, motivated to tell you that because it covers their ass, right? Or B, they haven't really looked into it that much and they're just assuming, right? They haven't actually looked into anything. They're just assuming this. But if you start doing the investigation, right, going back to the shooting range analogy, there's a camera. The range master is doing an investigation on who has poor aim. So, if you or a loved one or a friend thinks that, oh, it's just both sides, why don't you actually do some actual investigation into the claims being made on both sides and who's actually talked about, rigged elections versus, just go Google Democrats talking about rigged elections versus Republicans talking about rigged elections. And I think what will come up will shock you. If you do like an hour's worth of research, I think you'd be very surprised. We'll put it that way.
No, yeah, you're 100% correct. I have a similar analogy. If you're in the middle between two people and there's one guy punching you in the nuts and there's another guy just kind of like minding his own business, walking away, and I were to pull you aside and I would ask you, are both of these people like good people? You would never say that both of them are equally bad or equally like neutral. You would say one guy is clearly a bad person and one guy is just like an indifferent person, or if he did do something, like you'd say he's a good person.
Yeah, of course not. It'd be ridiculous. But that's the thing, is most people do that, I think, with politics because, let's be honest, politics is probably pretty complicated. And it does honestly, doing this show with you, I have to do a lot more research than before, and it feels like doing homework again, which is fine. But to me, I enjoy that, right? Most people don't want to do that.
That's true. And yeah, that's like honestly why we do the show, just because we both already do more research than the average person. More so now because we're trying to become even more factually accurate. But like most people, they run with vibes. And I think the dangerous part about politics is when it just becomes vibes. And I've said this personally to a lot of people in that I hate talking about like what we're talking about now. You know what I really find a lot of enjoyment in is actual like politics, like as in the border bill that was taken away because Trump wanted to run on a border issue in 2024. That bill, there's a lot of good arguments, or a lot of arguments that you can talk about that bill, about like how many asylum seekers should we be taking in, how much should we be giving to the border, and how much like money we should be putting towards investing in like drug finding like technology, I guess. And just salaries, and like how much should we hire and how much should we train these people. Like these are actually interesting conversations you can have. But you know what's not an interesting conversation to have? Oh, we have to send every illegal person out of this country because they're all doing crime and they're all doing drugs and they're all trafficking people. That is such a boring topic, and I just get so infuriated when that's like what I have to argue about, you know?
Yeah, no, there's no fun to it. There's no real argument being had. It's just a bunch of lies being thrown at you constantly.
And speaking of lies, here we have John Solomon fucking running away, I guess. I don't know what else to call this.
You acknowledge that there were no votes changed in 2020.
All I can acknowledge is what the intelligence shows, right? I only know the intelligence community has zero evidence that someone has flipped, that a foreign power flipped a vote in 2020, 22, or 24.
And you have you're able to acknowledge.
We're now through all the documents.
You're able to acknowledge that Venezuela has not tampered with voting machines in the United States.
No, the intelligence is very clear. They did it on their own machines. Why is it important that they did it on their machines? Their machine protocols are the same as America. Why? Because for a long time they did exactly.
And so the 2020 election was in fact the results as the American public.
I'm still researching, so let me. This is the first.
But there's no intelligence.
Not yet.
You gotta get.
There is no intelligence that the election would have said that Donald Trump was president.
The president said that tonight.
And there you have it. I don't know what else to say besides it's disgusting that one, he's willingly saying that there's no evidence to show what Trump was saying on stage to the nation. Two, I don't know why they are pulling him away. Well, I do know why, but like he was very willing to answer and talk about this until someone else pulled him away, and then Caroline Levitt here is getting in the way of this reporter trying to ask this guy questions. And again, we said it. Brandon read it out earlier. This guy was
Part of the people that were trying to spread the lies about Biden to try to bring his character down
exactly
before the 2020 election. Something I think this shows us, though, is that John Solomon's comments here, they do show us something new, right? What they show us is that, in his mind, there is no evidence that in the 2024 election that there was any interference by a foreign power, right, to sway the election here in the U.S. But the issue is that, remember, only reason why Trump's pivoting to the China stuff right now is because there is no evidence he can show that the Democrats, which was his original claim, that the Democrats had rigged the U.S. election in 2020, and maybe try to influence in 2024, even though he won. So what it shows us, right, is that if Trump is pivoting, what it seems like he's doing, if he's pivoting to the China claims of election interference and not even really harping that much on the Democrats anymore, then it should. And if John Solomon is, I believe him when he says there's no intelligence that shows that there's any foreign interference, then this is just another dead end for Trump. And then it also uncovers that I think he knows. I think Trump does know, of course, that he did lose the 2020 election fair and square. So I think Solomon's comments here shed some interesting light on Trump's thinking.
You bring up an interesting point, Brandon. I think you're correct, and I think this just kind of illustrates that the Trump administration is really just grasping at straws and trying to do anything that they can to try to do some sort of election interference, which with them doing this move so early, it makes me feel more comfortable in the fact that unless they do something drastic in the months before elections, this is just going to pan out and fizzle out and do nothing. This is just them grasping at straws.
Yep, that's all it is. And they're going to use whatever rhetoric they can, or hopefully, they're already kind of using as much power as they can to, try to impact with the Save America Act. That's what Trump was, clamoring about at the end of this speech here, is to try and pass the Save America Act, which would impact you, really any voter, because you have to supplant them with more, intense or hard to get documents. Doesn't impact me really, because I do have a U.S. passport and I can dig up my birth certificate and all this other junk. But it will impact ordinary Americans to come out and vote, and it will hamper people's ability to, have their voices heard in our democracy. So they're going to try to use whatever weapon they can to undermine the storm that they know is coming in midterms. They know that they are this U.S.-Iran war, which we'll talk about on Sunday, most likely, is incredibly unpopular. Inflation, even though in this particular speech Trump gave on Thursday, he was saying that, we had this massive drop, this historic drop in inflation. Well, I'm sorry to say, the inflation spike that occurred this year was because of the U.S.-Iran war. The reason why it dropped, the inflation dropped, was due to gas prices dropping 10% because of the U.S.-Iran war agreement that is now in the toilet, by the way. And now we're firing. Both countries are now firing missiles back and forth at each other. So you're going to see those prices rise up again. So that inflation was caused by Trump. The spike happened because of the agreement. The agreement's now broken. So those prices are going right back up, because nothing that drop came from the gas prices. It did not come from your other consumer goods. So your grocery prices are still going to be the same. I understand, right, to any critics of my comment there, I understand that fuel prices, gas prices can directly impact grocery prices, but none of those other prices came down substantially when the gas prices came down. So I mark my words, a month from now, when this war is still going on, because it will still be going on, you're going to see those prices go right back up. Inflation is going to go right back up.
I heard Lindsey Graham, before he died, was like, he was on phone call and he was saying to Trump, "I love the Save America Act. I love the Save America Act, Trump. I loved it. I love it." I heard that's what he was saying.
God, yeah. It's just it's so ridiculous. At the end of the day, right, the Save America Act, it's
It's
like I said,
un-American, unconstitutional.
yeah, it just hampers your ability to vote. That's all it does. And the thing too, here's how I know it hampers your ability to vote. Or actually, no, it does hamper your ability to vote, but it also helps people that are Republican get out and vote harder or more, sorry, I should say, than people that are Democrats.
And remember, the Save America Act is an entirely different piece of legislation. And just like the border bill that Trump told conservatives to not approve because he wanted to run on a border crisis, he does not care about you. He will actively use legislation that will benefit you as a bargaining chip. And just like, because right now there's a bill for the housing shortage that we're going through that has passed the House. It's waiting on the Senate to be confirmed, but Trump has said that he will not sign it for no other reason besides just passing the Save America Act. And I don't know how else to say it. Like, that is just so disgusting. He's trying to use something that's not related to this issue at all as, like, he's holding it hostage. And I don't know how ordinary people don't see that as, like, vile and despicable.
Yeah, and one of the ways that this targets, just ordinary Americans is think about, like, if you're a woman, right, and you just got married and you had your name changed. Well, if the name change, and I know someone in my personal life that would be in this predicament right now, if your name change is not reflected on your accompanying proof of citizenship, whether it be your license coupled with like a passport or birth certificate, then if those names don't match up, well, then you can't vote. So it's bad for anyone changing their name. It's bad for, I mean, just think like, if I have a valid US passport, so I don't have to worry. But if I didn't have that, I would have to bring like a birth certificate. And I don't even know, honestly, if I could find my birth certificate, to be honest with you. I'd have to get like a copy somewhere. So I don't know, like, it's just one of these things where it's just restrictive. It just restricts people's ability to vote for no reason. There's no reason for any of this stuff. It's just, we all have to placate this baby, essentially, that is the head of our executive branch for kind of no reason.
Exactly. And that's where we'll leave it, because there's no point in placating the delusions of a madman.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening.